Okay, so I wanted to talk a bit today about what's going on with inventory here in the Toronto real estate market for the month of September. Just backdating because we just got the stats released not too long ago. So we've seen a massive uptick in active listings. This is properties, new listings and old listings currently sitting on the market. And what we've seen is really a significant increase of new listings over the last few months to average levels. So we're not above or necessarily beyond our historic average or norms for new listings. However, as I talked about previously, is our sales are significantly down. And they're at 25-year lows for sales, especially detached and condos. But what we're seeing is that the number of sales are comparable to what we saw last fall, like heading into last year's fall market after 6 consecutive interest rate hikes from the Bank of Canada. We saw, sales plummet, and it was a very quiet, long drawn out fall market with sales kind of averaging between 4,000 to 5,000 a month, and that's historically low for the fall market into the winter. And we're seeing the same thing happen this year after the June and July interest rate hikes. So buyers have pulled back. The biggest difference that I've noticed in this market compared to last fall is the number of active inventory. We've shot up in terms of months of inventory, peaking at 4 months of inventory for all housing types across the GTA, and that's a record that we haven't hit in 15 years. We typically average around 2 months of inventory. Maybe the highest we've seen is high threes, but typically around 2, and in hot markets under 1. So this 4 months of inventory is a ratio of how many sales happen to how many active listings are sitting in the market. So how long would it take for all the current properties to sell? And that would be 4 months at this current pace. And the big difference is last year we saw sellers take down their properties for sale with the hopes that there'd be a better spring market or better year in 2023. And so even though sales were down, active inventory and new listings slowed. And so it wasn't a high supply market. We weren't, it was just a non-movement market from both the sellers and buyers. This year, the sentiment feels a bit different with sellers. Sellers are more motivated to sell. They don't want to drag this out any longer. Maybe renewals are starting to come up next year. That's on their mind. They've maybe carried their rental property at a net loss for the last, 6 months, 12 months, and they're just saying, you know what, I don't want to hold out. So we're seeing sales happen a little quicker this year, as sellers are quick to adjust and price change, and are adapting. But the stubborn mentality that we had last year, where sellers just said, hey, and I called it a tug of war, of sellers just sitting there and saying, hey, we're going to hold out and see if these buyers will come around next year, which did pan out for a lot of them who held off, as the first half of the year was a pretty strong sellers market, are now reluctant to, or do not have the same faith that next year is going to hold out or be any different than it was this year. So we're now seeing inventory track at higher rates, and as long as that continues, we'll feel downward pressure on price. And we get to see what's going to happen as we go through the rest of October and November, if we do see some sellers pull back and take their property off the market, or if we see sellers commit and lower their price to actually sell. I'll keep you posted on the activity that we're seeing going forward. Just stay tuned every week for these updates.